right. So if you missed what he did, he dropped the food on the ground, licked his fingers, and then put it back in the box. Now, thank God the person who lives there saw it on the door cam and of course on the video cam, and I assume they didn't eat it. But this is what's going on, and it's going on more often than we realize. Okay. Every time I drive through the city, Baltimore City, there are DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub drivers all over the place. It was weird because everybody's on a moped now and they're delivering food constantly. Bags of fast food being dropped off nonstop. And here's the thing. This explosion of delivery services tells us something deeper about the state of American life right now. Families are cooking less. Kids rarely sit at a dinner table. And DoorDash drivers, many of whom are foreign nationals, come on now, we're going to tell the truth, are basically feeding America now. And nobody's asking why. Want to get your thoughts on this, Shelly, first, of what we just saw before we really dig in.
Well, as I've said before, I'll say it again. I told y'all ain't nobody starving in the USA. Okay. So that's your answer to families and families being able to afford these services or whatever the case may be. But you're right. It does tend to or pretend to say, well, nobody's cooking at home, families are not having meals together, and we have these service workers working for however much they get paid. I will admit I have never used DoorDash or whatever other service, never. Now I have ordered online, but I typically will go and pick up my food if I've done so. But this does say, it actually says how wealthy we are as a nation. Okay, how much excess, if you will, or discretionary income we actually do have. Ain't nobody starving in the United States of America. I want to ask, can we see that video again? Because I know people were saying that he licked his fingers. Again, he licked his fingers, I thought, after the food dropped, after he picked it up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought people were saying that he licked his fingers and then touched the food. That's what I thought at first. Okay. But before you go on, KJ, we do have another super chat. We want to mention to Brown Eyes. Thank you, Brown Eyes. Don't make my brown eyes blue.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you.
Chat. She says, great team, the GOAT. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Brown Eyes.
Blue tonight. Thank you, Brown Eyes.
Thank you. Yes. He licked his fingers because whatever he touched in the food had sauce or something on it. Mm-hmm. So instead of him wiping his fingers with a napkin or whatever, he had to first pick it up off the ground. He got the sauce on his hands and then he licked his fingers. Nicole, what are your thoughts on that?
So I have a unique perspective as a former DoorDasher. So some restaurants kind of put labels on the food that make sure that it doesn't fall out if you drop the bag. Sometimes the bags are stapled. So I don't know where he's DoorDashing and where he picked that up from, but that's generally not how it's done. Some areas, especially more urban areas, you do see the people on mopeds going around and that kind of thing. But in rural areas and areas that are less populated, you see very few of those. And you see people like me. Moms who need a little extra money, dads who are trying to put the two ends together to make it meet, or somebody who's saving up for a cruise like I'm taking in January. This is the way that you can afford some of the things that you couldn't squeeze out of your budget ordinarily. But like in every other industry, there are people who are absolutely gross. I mean, beside themselves gross. Now, he may not think what he did was gross because he probably does that at his house. 5-second rule. You drop it on the ground, pick it up, kiss it to God, and keep eating it. Some people roll like that. And then there are those of us who are saying, I would never do DoorDash. But let's not oversell the idea of simply because you order takeout doesn't mean that you're not sitting together as a family. Because now more moms are working, right? More dads are working hard. Everybody's trying to recover from COVID expenses because as much as we'd like to think it was very long ago, financially, people are still recovering. People are still catching up. Then we had the government shutdown when all the federal employees were DoorDash and Uber Eats and doing all of those things. People order food, sit down and have it as a family meal. It may be in front of the TV, it may be in front of a video game system, but they are sharing a meal. Are they cooking? No. And that's a problem. RFKJ is not going to like that. He's not going to like that at all. Americans are addicted to convenience. We always have been. We are a microwave society. We like things lickety split. Somebody order DoorDash. We're going to have Thanksgiving dinner because you can get a turkey from Popeyes for $39.99 with some sides and trimmings. You never have to turn your stove on. So again, I think it's more of us being addicted to having convenience, things quick, fast, and in a hurry. And the less work we have to do after working hard all day, the better. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Nicole, I gotta disagree with you there. I mean, I know multiple families with teenagers. One, most teenagers have their own accounts.
Mhm.
They're ordering DoorDash sometimes outside of dinner if the mom or dad cooking are cooking. So, and they're generally ordering the DoorDash, grabbing it, taking it up to their rooms while they're on their phones, and they're eating. This is not, I believe this is a window into the collapse of family rhythms. Okay, personal discipline. I actually got scolded by my mother-in-law recently. She came here. She's from the Caribbean. She's very old school. And, I'm working, doing these podcasts. My husband's working. My son's, involved in all types of stuff. And sometimes we don't eat together. We don't eat together a lot during the week, at least. Now we eat together on the weekends. And she was livid. What type of home are you running here? You don't eat together. That's what she said. She said. And so when she was here, she would lay out everybody's plates and we come down and she forced us to eat together. Now we don't DoorDash, but I would cook or she would cook and then everybody would just get what they wanted when they had time to eat. So I really think it is a result of the culture that we're living in now. But what are your thoughts, Tyrone?
Well, I mean, it's convenience. Me personally, and this is something that we actually do every day on the Soldiers of Finance live streams. At the end, we kind of talk about what I'm going to cook for the evening. My grandfather was a steward in the U.S. Navy stationed aboard the USS Cabana. It was a destroyer escort in the Pacific, saw a lot of action during World War II. My grandfather was such a good cook that the captain of that vessel ordered him to be his cook. Wow. He cooked the captain's food. And my grandfather taught us how to cook, my grandfather and my mother. And so I absolutely love to cook, okay? I don't go out to eat often at all. And when I do, it's usually like something business related. I really don't like to go out to eat. I know how to cook. I have several cookbooks. I used to cook meals when I was a firefighter. You ask them about my cube steak, gravy, and onions, okay? So the DoorDashers, God bless them. It's a form of commerce. I have no problem with it. But I will say this. This is another thing I learned about restaurants, right? If I go in there and order a steak and chicken shows up on the plate, it's not going back. I'm going to eat it, okay? I do not send anything back. I don't complain about dishwasher spots on my wife. We go out, they got dishwasher spots. I said, we got dishwasher spots on the knives. Chill out. Okay, don't mess me up with these people. Okay, so
well, let me say this, KJ. Talking about helpers. Now, I do understand when Nicole is saying helpers. I get that. Let me tell you what Tony Evans said a long time ago, one of his sermons, talking about helpers and in the home cooking. He said, "How many of y'all got helpers in your kitchen?" So I guess I didn't see it was on the radio. So I guess the audience, mostly women, they must not have raised their hands. He said, "Y'all lying, because if you have Maytag and Sears and GE, you got dishwashers and refrigerators. Those are called kitchen helpers. Those are modern versions of kitchen helpers. So don't think that you don't have a helper or that you're the only one cooking a meal." So I thought that was pretty funny. So to Nicole's point, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I am all for DoorDash and Uber and all of it. But and I think we had talked about this during the scamdemic, how
Mhm.
people who were using DoorDash as, you know, a part-time job were unable to find work because so many, they were giving these jobs to illegals, particularly in the cities. As soon as they come in, they give them a phone, and a lot of them were going out taking jobs from hardworking Americans, door dashing, Ubering, and all kinds of things. And you know, just to go back to the collapse of the family, I mean, again, for most of American history, dinner was a sacred family institution. But now
Mhm.
stat after stat shows that regular family meals have lower depression, lower drug use, and reduce risky behavior. And so we're seeing an increase in those things. And you know, I don't know if it's as simplistic as this, but it has come in correlation with the lack of families getting together at mealtime. They barely eat together anymore. Everyone eats separately at different times in different
Mhm.
rooms. And definitely DoorDash isn't helping, I would say. I don't know if it's destroying it, but it certainly isn't helping.